I believe we are live. Yes, we are. There we are. Thank you, Anna. Appreciate it. So I'm going to do roll call, check in with y'all, do a lecture, and then talk a little bit about type of social work. I expect we'll be here for maybe an hour. So, yeah. All right. So I'm going to go back to not sharing my screen, and hopefully I will be able to check down the list to see if you're here. But go ahead and unmute yourself, especially those of you who are in the first part of the alphabet, like Alyssa. You may unmute yourself. Are you here?
I'm here.
All right.
Hello.
Okay. You need anything from us?
I do not. I can't think of anything now.
All right. Cool. Anna Lawhorn.
Here.
All right. Andrew?
I'm here.
Good to see you. Caitlin?
Here.
Okay. I didn't see you. Oh, there you are. Thank you. Chastity. Are you here, Chastity? I think everybody's out of alphabetical order now. No, we're back in it. Doria.
I'm here.
Hi, Doria. Floor.
I'm here.
Okay. What's your? Are you using a separate name?
Me?
Yeah.
Does it show Cami? On my area, it shows Floor.
Oh, you're at the top for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know. Okay, it's just out of alphabetical.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Sure.
Gaspar. Hi, Gaspar.
Hi, how y'all doing?
Doing well. Grace, I see you right there. Hi, Grace. Jarvey, I saw you. Well, I didn't see you. You said something in the, yeah, you said, I am here. I thought I would be late. You're not.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Jarvey. Good to see
Hi.
you. Or not good to see you, but good to hear you. James?
I'm here.
All right. And your microphone sounds pretty good. Jackie or Jacqueline, are you here? Yeah, Jackie Jimenez.
I'm here. Hi.
Hi. Jennifer Shelton.
Here.
Okay. Jessica Newton.
Here.
Where are you? Oh, you're just on the line. Okay, good. Jessica Rogina. Joe Perez. Here you are.
I'm here.
Hey, Joe. Good to see you.
Hello. Thank you.
Jose. See Jose on the call. Judy. Are you on here somewhere?
Present.
Yeah. Okay. Kim Hodge. I don't see Kim on here. I do see Lisa. Are you there, Lisa?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Mackenzie.
I'm here.
Thank you. Maria.
I'm here.
Roselle. Rose. There you are, Rose Robles.
Hi, I'm right here.
All right. Thank you for being here. Sarah. I don't see Sarah, but I do see Tabs. Are you there, Tabs?
Hi, yeah, I'm here.
And then Yahaira.
I'm here.
Thank you. Jessica Regina. Okay, Jessica Regina, you just showed up. I saw your.
Yes, I'm here.
Good to see you. Just going over my list. I think that's about it. All right. Okay. I'm going to jump right into our lecture. And I had to leave for a moment, so if you have to leave, just turn your microphone off. I mean, turn your camera off. I'm gonna. Of course, she's gonna read. She's gonna see this on when she views the video later. So, all right. So here we are. We have our roll call just finished. Okay, I'm gonna jump into lecture on chapter 14, 15, 16. As I mentioned, it's not going to be long. I want to have more of a discussion on what we've talked about over the last semester. So we jump right in. There we are. So as I think you found from the reading about the teacher who worked in a rural community, social work in rural communities is a little bit different than it is in urban communities. And the main thing is in rural counties, there are not a lot of resources. And so you do have a community that tends to want to help a lot. Rural communities are like that. So the one definition that I want you to be familiar with, in case you do work in rural communities, is natural helping network. So in the chat box, I would like you to either give me a definition of a natural helping network, just what you think that might be, either an example of a natural helping network or the definition of a natural helping network. So fire away, and I'll see if I can get back to the chat. Families, tab says families, family support system. Kind of like it takes a village, very good. School, absolutely. Schools are one of the major networks that people use. Close friends, absolutely. Church. Community pulling together resources that they have access to. Very good. And food banks, that's right. Some of the rural communities do have food banks available. Very good. Wonderful, wonderful start. So, click, click. Here's our definition of helping network. And it is the informal system of support, not the health and human service agencies, but very specifically, some of those things that we don't necessarily think would be providing social services. And this is definitely something that needs to be present in rural communities. But also one of the things that I found is even in urban communities, you do need some of these natural helping networks. In fact, when I was at Bentop Hospital, when I was working there, one of the things that we had to do in the middle of the night, because I worked a lot of evening shifts, is find transportation for people when they were discharged. Patients would be discharged in the middle of the night and they didn't have transportation. So one of the things that I had to say to them was, do you know any of your neighbors? And they would say, no, I really don't. Do you go to church? Yeah, I do. Do you know anybody from church that you can reach out to? And no. Do you go to a synagogue? Do you go to a gym? Do you go to the YMCA? And so natural family or natural helping networks are very, very important, both in rural counties, but also in urban settings too. So that is not what I wanted to do. I cannot minimize. I have to share my screen again. Apparently. Okay, so there we were. Natural helping network, an informal system of support available to individuals as opposed to a professional service delivery system. Okay, that was chapter 14. Chapter 15. One of the readings that you had was the employee assistance program. If you can get a job as a social worker in the employee system in the employee assistance arena, oftentimes in the HR department, it's a it can be a really good position, helping individuals, but also helping a business thrive. So the piece that companies are beginning to understand is that if their workforce is healthy, then their productivity will go up. And so bottom line, profits will go up. So social work in the workplace is a growing field. I think amidst this crisis, I'm hoping that it will continue, because as companies, after we have been let out of our shelter and they come back and the real market starts coming back, I'm hoping that big businesses will continue to employ more people to work on employee assistance, because I really do feel that as people come back, all of us have really suffered some trauma. And so it's going to be important that we adjust back into the workplace. So, occupational social work. So occupational social work is social work provided in the workplace. It focuses on relationships that can then help businesses. Okay? That is chapter 15. Questions? Hearing none, I'm going to move on.
I have a question.
one. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask if any of that was going to be on the test.
Yes. And you'll actually, I'm going to give you the test questions at the end of my lecture.
Oh, okay.
So you will know it in just a moment, but you have to actually answer them. So keep in mind what we just did. Natural helping network, occupational social work. I want you to know those two definitions, as well as this one. And I'll give you it's international social work. One of the growing field in social work is international social work, because international social work focuses on the lives of a lot of countries that have populations that are in deep oppression. And one of the things that social workers do in the United States is they work with the United Nations, which is one of those organizations here in the U.S. that really does look internationally at social welfare. And so international social work is a growing field. And for those of you who would have an interest in it before you get into a family life cycle, for example, if you're still an unattached adult, it's a great place to begin your social work career, because you learn a lot about community development. So I wanted to share that with you also. And that is chapter 16. Questions on international social welfare? Okay, so I'm going to conclude with a pop quiz. Fill in the blank. Answer to number 1, number 2, and number 3. Give me the answers in the chat. An informal system of support available to individuals as opposed to professional service delivery. Go to the chat box. Social work services provided through the workplace, and the field of practice concerned with promoting basic human well-being in contexts of cross-national efforts. Trying to get to chat without, there's only one person responding in the chat. Can I get there? I have to stop sharing just to look at your chat, so here we go. Okay, Flora says, answer to number 1 is Natural Helping Network. Very good. I should do them at one at a time. Caitlin, Natural Helping Network, very good. That's worth like 2 points on the test, folks, so Who else is there? I cannot minimize.
I can't see the questions anymore,
Okay.
so sorry.
All right, we're going to do them one at a time because apparently I can't chat and do this at the same time. So, okay, yes. The answer to the first one is Natural Helping Network. So, what is the answer to number 2? Social work services provided through the workplace. Why want to? Oh, okay. Oh, now it's popping up. Good. Okay, occupational social work, occupational social work. Oh, somebody did yeah, you did it right. Very good. All right, y'all are rocking and rolling. Good. And I'll figure this system out. So that answer is correct. Answer to question number 2 is occupational social work. And I know that many of you have already answered number 3, but go ahead and answer again in the chat box. And I'll try to bring the chat box up again. Oops. No one saw that, right? So this is how my test is going to be. Let's see, chat. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to look at the chats. The answer is correct, international social welfare. Very good. Y'all did great. I'm not sharing anymore. Right? Okay, I've stopped sharing the screen. All right. Questions before we move on? Okay, someone, before we have a discussion about social work, and as many as you can, go ahead and get into, come on video and unmute yourself. But somebody sent me a question or a statement asking to please talk about the Census 2020. Does anybody know why it would be important for us to fill out the Census 2020? And actually, raise your hand. Have you received it in the mail? Raise your hand. Okay. Look for it, everyone. Okay, Maria did, yes, okay. I've already gone online and I filled it out. It's very simple for me. For Debbie and me, the people in the household, it's 2 of us. I gave them our ages, our ethnicity, very, very simple form. Does anybody know why that census is important at all?
I got an email.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I got an email. I didn't know prior to receiving the email how important it was, actually, to be completely honest. It determines how many people live in the city, obviously, and in the country, but also how much money is going to be designated for public assistance. So it's, according to the email, obviously, it said that it's in our best interest to participate because obviously the services that we offer as a state, as a community, as a city will be funded if more people reply to it.
Yes. Yes. The government knows, because of the numbers, the government will know things like how much money more is needed for like free lunch for students or after school care or free rent for some areas in low income areas. How many more roads we need, also more jobs needed to be in place in areas.
Very good.
Oh, good.
Thank you. It is very, very important. And the other thing is I did fill it out, and there is not a question that has to do with citizenship. The census is required by our Constitution, and if they don't ask a question of whether you're a citizen or not, it doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. The census is simply gathering data. There is no action that can be taken, no action that could be taken that if you feared, for instance, that someone was living in your house and did not have the appropriate papers to be in the United States, no one is going to check that. And you should say who is in the household at the time, no matter what. And it is very important. It does provide the formula for how much money the federal government will be allocating to the different counties and the different cities. So very, very important. So if you have received that census in the mail, or if you're with your parents or with another significant others and know that it's there, please make sure that you fill it out, because it will make a difference for your local community. It'll have a great impact. So
Is there a deadline?
Pardon me?
Is there a deadline?
Yeah, the deadline actually it was normally in, I believe, August, but it got pushed back to October, I think 28th maybe.
Yep. Thank you. I knew it had been changed, but I don't, yeah, that sounds about right. They pushed it back about 2 months. So.
Yeah, I also wanted to just say, so people could be aware of this. Like you said, right, there is no citizenship question, but I want people to know that when Trump came into office, he was trying to push back, putting back the citizenship question onto the census.
Yeah. And the reason for that was so that the effect of that could be to scare people of color, especially those immigrants, of not filling out the census, but they wouldn't be counted. And so if you don't fill out the census, then the reality is you're not going to get the services, as many services. So it's very, very important that you fill that out. And thank you, Jessica, for bringing that to our attention. It needed to be discussed. Cool. Questions on that? All right, and don't forget to fill your taxes out either. So, all right, let's see. I got to get back to my PowerPoint, and everybody knows those three answers. So, natural helping, those three. That'll be three. The only 3 questions from chapter 14, 15, and 16 on the test. So that's what you need to know. So here we are. And I did something earlier to try to, I think I did it on my laptop so that I could have questions side by side. And I will try to do this in just a moment, try to replicate that. But over the last semester, I want to kind of remind you of where we are. And as I was going through this, it's like we have such a short, we've had such a short time together, but it feels like we've had a very long time together. As I see it, we've had like 7 sessions together prior to this meeting that we're having right now. I'm not counting the first meeting that we had in January, although that was a wonderful time. I really enjoyed meeting you for the first time. That was kind of a welcome. But on February 3rd, which was the day that I turned 61, we had Dr. K and Dr. Liel do a presentation, and they spoke about the BSW program. Unfortunately, we did not have a representative from the social work student organization, but Dr. K, I think Dr. Liel actually talked more about that. On that same day, you read a story about life as a BSW educator, and then read a story about community organizing. I think her name was Cinnamon, and she worked with a group of people from a community where a Black church had been targeted for racism. On February 10th, we had a guest speaker from hospice, and I think 1 or 2 of you actually probably followed up with Elizabeth. Does anybody remember Elizabeth's last name? Because I should have looked this up.
Yes, it's Huerta, Huerta.
Huerta.
Yes.
Huerta. Huerta. Okay, thank you. And if you talk to Elizabeth, tell her I apologize. I forgot her last name. And when I was putting my agenda together, I just didn't add it. But she came and she talked about hospice care. She isn't a social worker. She works very closely with Sophie, who is the social worker to hospice care, and Sophie had an emergency that she had to attend to, so she couldn't speak. But you learned a little bit about hospice care. Then that same day, you had a reading due on private practice and the eclectic social worker, and working with unaccompanied minors. On the 17th, we had Evelyn Fabian, who was actually new to the area. She was from the United Way, and so she talked about social work practice kind of from a macro standpoint. You also got to read about my life as an agency CEO, and family advocacy in the military. And one of my favorite speakers, February 24th, Josephine, of course, spoke the whole time, as she always does. She did give me enough time, I think, so that I could review for the midterm test. You can give me any feedback on the midterm test or the midterm test review if you'd like. But Josephine talked a lot about, well, she actually did a transgender 101. And she always does a fabulous job. She likes to catch people off guard and make them uncomfortable. And I do want to say that was one of the most delightful times that I got to see Josephine speak to my class, because you all came back with her with some very difficult questions that challenged her in her role, working on advocacy for the LGBTQ community. You also had to read something on Introduction to the 603, which is involuntary admission of hospital patients when they're in danger of hurting themselves or others, and about outreach to homeless veterans. Then then you had your final exam, your midterm exam, then you had spring break, and then our lives were changed. We had this COVID virus crisis kind of hit us between the eyes. We kind of regrouped and got back on track. I think March 30th was our first time back. Yeah, and we just did a welcome back. How are things going? But from March 30th through April 13th, you had some readings on inner city high school, urban CPS, working with assaultive men, nursing home social work in the rural community, and employee assistance program. So that's just a down and dirty summary of our semester. I'm going to attempt to, if I can, try to pull these things up together, because I want you to, maybe it did work here. No, never mind, it didn't. Okay, I'm gonna pull it back up. I have some questions that I want you to answer. What I'm gonna do is try to pull these up on two different screens. But here are the questions. So I'm gonna go through the questions, then I'll pull them up side by side, and I want us to have, I want you to start thinking about it, and we'll have some discussion about it. So, of the stories you read in the Days in the Life of Social Workers, what stories really resonated with you? What were you surprised at? Specifically, I remember reading a lot of times that people in your writing said, I didn't know that social workers do that. So thinking back on the different readings, and I'll pull them back up in a little bit. What surprised you most? What resonated with you personally? And you said, this is something that I might be interested in. And it really said, oh, this is what a social worker does. And then another question to go along with that is, I typically have a dozen guest speakers. We had, I guess, about 6. But which ones did you enjoy the most? Who did you enjoy the most, and why? And did any of the speakers inspire you? So I'm going to play around with this real quick. So indulge me. You can watch me try to pull this together. I'm going to take this. I'm going to put it into my Word document. Oh, I'm doing an electronic transfer if you want to know what I was working on earlier. Oh, silly. Okay. Oh, yeah. You know, I've done this before, and I think you can kind of see that. Okay, so think about this for a moment. Write it down for yourself. What stories were you most surprised at? Which ones resonated with you?
Not really a story, but when Josephine spoke, she really, like, it was almost intimidating because she was very knowledgeable of what she was talking about. And it kind of was like intimidating and very overwhelming because I feel like I just know the basic, just like lesbian, but it was very like, I really appreciated her knowledge, and like really, like, it was kind of like a smack in the face, like, I don't know this community, and it's kind of like I was disappointed and ashamed of myself for not knowing that community as well as I think I should. And it was just like very inspiring, and it was very, I don't know, I felt like very, I guess, emotional after the fact, after she like presented.
That's awesome. I will share that information with her. Not your name, but I will share that with you. And along with that, I appreciated the words that came out of your mouth first were, she was a bit intimidating because she came on strong. And she does that on purpose. But I was so proud of the questions that you gave, because one of the things that she does is she's like trying to trick people into thinking, okay, because I changed my gender, do you think I'm a lesbian or am I heterosexual? You know, trying to kind of confuse you, but you all really focused her more than any other group that ever has. So yes, I have the utmost respect for all that she does, and I can't begin to imagine how oppressed the LGBT community is, because I live in a white heterosexual community, and so I don't have to face the discrimination that takes place, the blatant abuse that takes place. And so, yeah, I also admire Josephine. Thank you. Anyone else?
The story that I liked the most was not one that we read as one of the assignments. It's the one that I did for my extra critical thinking essay.
Uh-huh.
And it was about the adventure-based therapy.
Oh, yeah.
That one's my favorite, and I didn't know that they did that. I have some knowledge of generally them doing some like trust challenges, you
Yeah.
know, for groups and stuff like that. But the social worker actually goes out there for several days with, I think they had, you know, some adolescents and some older adults. And I really like that. That was my favorite story. I like that career would be very interesting to me too. The other thing is, so the person is a social worker, right?
Yes.
But they also learned how to do all the skills that they were doing. So if they were doing rock climbing, they were educated in how to do that and a lot of different things. And I really enjoyed that. That was my favorite story. And to follow up on the speaker that we were just talking about, Josephine, she was my favorite. I do think she is also very forward, but I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like people in a you know, in a business, or they have this profession, they're educated, I see them in my head as like in this suit and tie, and they have this, you know, just very bland personality, right? And with her, I felt like she was very open and honest, and I just really liked her personality. But I think that the speaker that I found her job to be the most interesting for me in my future was Evelyn with the United Way. So I truly believe that one of the issues that we have in society is, and see if you can follow this, but you know, we pay all this money to go to school to become educated to do this job. And a lot of people don't want to share that. They think, well, I went to school and I did this. If you want to know how to do this, then you need to go to school. And so we kind of like covet our information, and we covet, you know, these things that we learn, these lessons that we learn. And I truly believe that things that we learn and the information we gather through our lives, you know, was given to us, you know, some way, and we should give it away freely. And she has this, you know, this company has this genius idea of, let's make one company that has information on several different companies so we can give it away freely to somebody. Instead of, if somebody is a low income, they have to go to the workforce here, they have to do this over here at this other facility across town, right? Why don't we just get all that information in one building so they can come to that one building and get all of it? So I really like that.
Okay, Anna, if I can pause for a moment. It's very interesting that you say she had a lot of knowledge, and you shouldn't have to pay for that knowledge. It's like I went to school, and because it's very, very interesting, because I was taught this class about a year ago, and one of the things that I had to do is I had to miss class the following week because I was going to Austin, and it was with the other executive directors, and so the class said, "So what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, one of the things I'm doing is I pride myself. I have great skill in working with our board of directors, and so I'm going to be presenting to the executive directors how I work with board of directors." And so they said, "So are you charging them to do that?" And it was interesting because and I said, "Well, no, I'm not." And the class really cornered me and said, "Why not? You are a professional. You have your PhD in social work. You have an expertise. You've been doing this for 25 years. Why are you not charging for that?" And I contemplated that a lot. And I said, well, part of the reason I'm not is because they're sharing information with me also. So it is an area of sharing. But I thought about it a long time, because in this profession, the skills we build, so if I go to school and learn about these, they're called ropes activities or challenge activities, the adventure, I'm thinking about the adventure, whatever it was called, the adventure-based therapy. If I'm spending my own money doing that, and I develop these skills, if I'm teaching it to others, why shouldn't I charge for that? And so there is a balance because that's part of our profession. So the one thing that I did do is prior to, I gave all the information that I do on the board to my colleagues, executive directors like me, who were working for communities and schools. And I said, but I need to pause for a moment and let you know, I'm giving you just a little bit of this. And I plan to write a book on board development, and I may start a blog on board development, and I encourage you to sign up for my blog because I'm going to get advertisers and I'm going to sell a book. So I basically gave the information, but said, you know, in the future, I'm going to be charging for this. So I just thought that was interesting that you said that, because we as social workers do have a responsibility to provide that education to other individuals, including colleagues. But we should also keep in mind that one of the things that may have resonated with a lot of you over this last semester is social workers just don't make a lot of money. And part of it could be that we don't package the material to a point where we could sell it. So I'm at a point in my life where I'm trying to find the balance for that. As I, look to retiring when I'm 70 years old, 9 years from now, I may need some other income. So, doing selling a book on board development or doing a blog where I could do that might be something that I should capitalize on. So. Sorry, I get off on rants sometimes. Soapboxes. But it reminded me of last year was completely different. And then people were saying, Peter, you can't give your knowledge away for free. You're skilled at this, just, don't give it away. So.
I want to say that I agree with Anna also. In terms of Evelyn being the one speaker that I felt kind of touched me more. I mean, they were all great and they all have very good information, but I felt that she was passionate about it also. And it was more of a personal thing for her. I mean, it was personal for the rest of them, but I think I can relate more to her because of her background. So I really enjoyed her presentation and the information that she had. Of course, she was very knowledgeable. You can tell that she really enjoyed what she does, and she does it for the right reasons. It's not just a job, because I've seen when people work in public assistance services where they just do it because they're looking for a paycheck. It's not something that they're doing because they're passionate about it. So it's good to see when people actually lived it and now get to experience it as adults. So it was neat to see her, and I actually would like to keep in contact with her in the near future. I mean, I have her business card and things like that, but I think she would be a good asset to continue on in the process of. And in terms of like the ratings, I feel like every time I read one story, it was like, okay, this is my favorite. And then I would read the next one and I'd be like, oh man, this is my favorite. But I think that in terms of becoming a social worker, initially when I thought about becoming one, I had a set in stone. I wanted a PCPS, no doubt about it. And then my mom is now a dialysis patient and she has a social worker. So then I said, okay, well, maybe I want to do that, because they took care of her to the extent that it kind of intrigued me to become one. But then when I read the employment assistance program, then I realized, and I don't know if you did that on purpose where you had us read that towards the end, but I saw that I also work in HR currently, but I saw how the employment assistance program can help so many, like in the broader society. So I think I would want to go more towards that, because I can help so many people just under one, like the umbrella just opened up and I can help so many different populations under just that specific job, if you will.
Cool. I love it. And that's the beauty of social work And it's very intentional. I will never give up. When in teaching Introduction to Social Work, I will never give up requiring you to read 2 stories a week, because that's the meat of this. It's like, and I'm saying this, but I shouldn't say this, systems theory doesn't really matter. The history of social work doesn't really matter. It's these stories that is what I'm hoping resonates with you. And for those of you who are going into social work, know that you can be like Peter Winchell and work with juvenile delinquents, work with the Coalition for the Homeless, work as a youth minister, and then do some direct work with kids. And then when you get towards the middle of your career, if you decide to go into administration, then go into administration. And that's what I did. I mean, it has that flexibility. And so all of this is all of what these people do is stuff that you can play with and go, I'm really tired of working with Child Protective Services. It's really grabbing at my soul and I need to move out of it. Part of what Debbie and I did when we were working with juvenile delinquents in Oklahoma, and these were kids that were in state's custody, and it just started tearing on our hearts. It was like, okay, we have got to get out of this for our own well-being, and then moved into another area of social work. So thank you for that. I'm glad the readings did that for you, made you bounce around to what you thought was your favorite. Who else?
If you don't mind, I had a couple.
All right, go for it, Joe.
Well, in terms of stories, I had quite a few favorite, but the one that I guess the one that I really, really enjoyed was the social worker that works in an urban high school.
Yeah.
And I had a very amazing social worker that worked with me in high school. And I guess that's what kind of made me want to look down as far as pathwise what a social worker is or what they can do. And when she worked with me, I can honestly say that she was always there when I needed her to be. So I guess that kind of makes me feel like, aside from the work that a social worker does in working with students and helping guide them in their academic career, it's not just their academic life, it's their personal life. And his story about working in high school is that high school is such a diverse place. He has so many students that he works with, and all of them are very unique in their own way. So he has to kind of adjust to each of them and their own unique needs, as well as being able to somehow relate to them and get them to open up to him, but also at the same time be a very authoritative figure and say, well, I'm here to help you. I'm technically not a friend, but at the same time, I'm also trying my best to make sure that I give you the best advice possible while trying to maintain some sort of relationship, as far as whenever they need help, they can go to him. So that story to me resonated a lot, because that's exactly what I felt when I started looking into the BSW program, was that if I'm going to go into school social work, I need to be able to find a way to relate, as well as be able to maintain some sort of credibility and professionalism, as well as being able to say on a personal level that, that I can relate to you in this sense, and that if there's anything you can do, you can come to me. My office is always open, but also at the same time, if you need the right avenues, I can point you in the right avenues.
That's awesome. Thank you, Joe. That your story resonates with me, because that's what my employees do. Is they have to have strong boundaries when it comes to working with kids, because those just have to be there. But
yeah.
The one thing that I hear you saying is you did develop a personal relationship that made so much difference in it, because you knew that person cares.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that is going on right now with our staff is that they are really, really missing the kids that they work with. And one of the things that they're doing is they do have on the school sites, they have websites, but they're allowed to put their own websites up there. And they have YouTubes. And so one of my staff is doing a YouTube, and she did it with, she got all of the teachers to do that, to make little hearts. And the first thing my staff members said was, "I miss you and I love you." And it's like, you're a professional social worker and you're saying that you love this person, but in the context of where we are right now, that's what they needed. They need to hear that. And a lot of a lot of my staff, and I have to tell them to be very cautious to use that word love.
Yeah.
But that truly is what they're feeling, and that what my staff are feeling, and what the kids feel back. So it is, it puts you in a precarious situation because I can't say on somebody's job description that you need to love this person, and it would be wrong. And also, if they were to put that in the context of a text to a child that says, "Yes, I love you too," it'd be like, do not do that. That is wrong. You cannot do that. That is going to get you in trouble. So anyway, so I appreciate what you say, because these times right now when my staff, again, are missing the kids and they know that the kids are missing them, it is that real caring attitude that makes a difference. But they have to also have professional boundaries. And it is quite a balance.
Big balance.
Yeah.
Whenever you mentioned, you talked about that. Oh, you can go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, I have so many favorite stories in here, but I did do some volunteer work with hospice. And it made me feel like how I felt when I worked at the retirement community. There's just a lot of love to give. I met a few people, though, that I mean, honestly, it just tore me up inside knowing that I wasn't going to get to see them anymore. I met this lady who was 97 years old, and she grew up in Alabama, and she told me, and they were sharecroppers. She told me these amazing stories. I met another lady in Galveston who actually lived in the Section 8, or the big housing apartments. So I'll go and see her there. She had very interesting stories to tell me. And I got to work with the social worker one day, and I spent the whole entire day with her and visited all these people, and I got to see what she did, and it was really awesome. Oh, I met this other lady too who was lived at a group home, and she intellectually, I can't think of the word to use. She was in her 70s, but say she had the mind of like a 10-year-old, and I would go and color with her, which was really fun. And she told me a bunch of really cool stories also about growing up in Galveston.
That's awesome.
I know that I would like to do that still, but I read these stories about working. The ER was really interesting to me, the more medical side of it. Also met a dialysis social worker, and he had like kind of the same experience as the hospice social worker, I would say. But I definitely want to continue to volunteer as soon as everything gets back up and running, because it was really an amazing experience to get to meet all sorts of different kind of people.
And so did you get to meet Sophie? Is that the hospice, or did you work somewhere else?
I worked somewhere else, but I worked with a lady who's actually friends with Sophie.
Okay.
Yeah, so she's been around, you know, like a bunch of different agencies. She gave me a lot of good input, a lot of gossip I probably didn't need to hear. But she has a whole network, and her and Sophie are actually pretty good friends, which I thought was interesting that other social workers, you know, all stay connected like that. And they help each other out too. Even working separate places, they still help each other out.
Awesome. Thank you, Caitlin. It's wonderful. Jessica, I think you were going to say something.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, one of them that really surprised me the most was hospice work. I've had my experience in being in hospice care because one of my grandmothers passed away of lung cancer, but in the final days she was in hospice care, and I was just surprised with the reading at how much it's actually like built on social work, social workers. You know, I thought hospice care was just something along with the hospital and stuff like that, but when we would go to the location, it was totally different from a hospital, like a totally different ambiance. You know, there were colors on the walls, warm lit rooms, and a beautiful like garden, so those who could go out in the back and enjoy some time. And I just thought that it was really surprising, you know, how I thought it was just hospital work. I didn't know that the social workers were very much involved, and I read how the Medicare regulates that the hospice care has to their volunteers have to I'm sorry, that 5% of their workers have to be volunteers. So then the NASW takes that task to make sure that these volunteers are, you know, educated with the social work values and stuff like that, because it's very important working with those in hospice care, because you know, you want to make sure that they're comfortable in their last area of their life. One that resonated most with me was probably the social work in elementary schools. Growing up, I've had issues with my family. It's been like a very toxic household and stuff like that. And so I was always at like after school care or at the YMCA, or I was always in my counselor's office, honestly, just when I just wanted to go and just talk. A lot of other people were like, "You're going to the counselor? Why?" But I don't think that other students understood that it was like a safe space, honestly. And what's funny is that growing up, um, I come from a family of educators, and my mom's a principal, my dad's a teacher, and stuff like that. And growing up, I was like, I'm never gonna become a teacher. I hate schools. I hate it all. But going through my first few years of college, like I realized that that time in a child's life is very, very important, because that's when, you know, that's when they're molded into their own individual self. They start getting their own ideas, and the influence on from teachers and from other students is very important in a child's life. Because if you think about it, like when you're in elementary school, middle school, high school, you're spending almost every day at school. And I think I've realized that I do want to either become like a counselor, or when I joined the class, I said that my plan was to just get my behavioral science degree and get a teacher certification to become a gym teacher, because I wanted to be that like cool teacher so I could have good relationships with my students. But I'm starting to push more to being a counselor now, because I want to be able to not just talk to them, but to be able to provide students with resources and with just more supply that just a regular gym teacher could give a student. And lastly, the speaker that really enjoyed was Evelyn with United Way, because like others said, she was very passionate, and you could see that when she talked. And also she was really knowledgeable and experienced. I remember her saying that, you know, if a veteran was coming to her, or if a family of low income or a dialysis patient was coming to her, that she had resources right away to give to them. And I thought that that was like, wow, she must like know a lot and have a lot of just experience with so many different populations of the social work.
And that is one of the struggles, is to keep up with when you're in Evelyn's position and you're working with the elderly, with the youth, with domestic violence, with shelters, with homelessness and things like that. Having to have that real comprehensive knowledge is very important. And what often happens is people get concentrated in one area. Like for me, I kind of focused on youth for a while. Then I started working with homelessness. Then I worked a little bit in the area of mental health. And you kind of focus there, but then as you start developing this, you can have this broader approach. And that's, I do appreciate that about Evelyn. You could tell she was very knowledgeable about every area and had to kind of switch gears almost. Thank you, Jessica.
Hi, Professor.
Yes.
Can you, I'm sorry, I'm kind of cutting in late on this, but can you give me the questions you're asking? I would love to answer.
Maybe. Yeah, okay. So of the stories and days in the lives of the social workers, which resonated most with you? And of the guest speakers, basically, who did you like the best, and how did they inspire you? Those are the questions.
Okay, cool. If I could answer, the person that did the most for me, interestingly enough, was Josephine Tisworth. The most interesting. Us, I believe, as a human race, we tend to shy away or shun what we don't understand. Yeah. And just getting information. I mean, I'm a person who feels empowered when she has more information about a subject. I can then make a well-rounded decision and make my own personal decision in whether or not I am for or against or what it is. So in my opinion, she gave me the most information in a world I would have never, went into, just because I just really wanted to know. So that was, to me, the most interesting. And the stories that resonated the most with me, I came into this class with an open mind, but still with a perspective that was negative. And so I wanted to be able to, information is power again. Yeah. I wanted to be able to say, let's see what this is about. Let me just see. Everybody keeps saying, Kim, you need to be a social worker. I'm like, I am not going to be no social worker. But after really getting into the information and really seeing what everything was about, and I'm sure we haven't really scratched the surface. This is only intro to social work.
That is correct.
So when reading all the different stories and figuring out, like, man, social work do everything. Good gracious. I think the ones that resonated with me most or are closest to my purpose, or the ones that I don't know how this is going to tie into. I feel that I need to know social work, and a lot of the social work values are a lot of part of me, but I feel that I needed to know about social work values and what it is, so that, because I want to be the resource possibly that the social worker goes to. Or I want to be around the outskirts of what the social worker does. Like, for example, you're dealing with a homeless teen, and the homeless teen happens to be pregnant. Well, I want to be the one that you come to and go, hey, Kim, I need a teen package. And I'll be able to give you everything you need. Throw a mini, baby shower for this homeless teen, so that she knows that others in the world have gone through this. You're not by yourself. The world your head will tell you you're by yourself, but you're not. And be the positive outlook of what my culture deems as a negative profession. It's not negative. It's so much more to it than what we tunnel vision see. And so I would want to be the one that kind of implements some change on how my culture sees the profession.
Very good. I don't know if you're reading the chats or not, but Jessica said, yes, knowledge is power. Tab said, I agreed. Ann said, yes, Kim. And Floor said, love this, Kim. So you have a lot of thumbs up going. Awesome. Thank you, Kim. one or two more people. James?
Okay. Well, as far as the stories, I think what resonated with me was actually the rural school district.
Okay.
And for me, it would be like, I guess in a way I would feel like that outsider, but I would take that mentality to try to challenge myself. You know, to win them over. Like she said, she goes, you know, being she was an outsider, she had to find a way for them to trust her being who she was. And I think for me, that would be like part of the challenge. For me, it'd be challenging.
Absolutely. Yeah, and she definitely was challenged because she came in and had to become part of the community.
Yes.
Good.
And one that just kind of shocked me, and it still has, was actually the military social worker.
Yeah.
Just in all that, I guess all the bullying that she could have had to deal with. And that just means that you would have to be very strong individual, and you would have to say, look, this is my job.
Yeah.
And then no matter what they tried to pull on you, you know, oh, well, I'm a this officer, I'm a that. Well, here are the rules.
Yeah. And
so, good.
And that one of the things that I was going to say was, oftentimes, because social workers have these very, very strong core values, when we get into another culture, such as the military, where, and the military was one, the prisons was another, and actually the schools were another example. We get into a culture where we have to adapt. Within the school system, it's like, okay, the kid has an untucked shirt. Do I really need to call that to his or her attention? You know, the big struggle though with the military was the commander saying, well, no, you have to give this information. And that's where a social worker can say, no, I'm a professional, and I recognize that, yes, any other time you should have this information, but because of the professionalism and the responsibility I have toward the integrity of and dignity and worth of my client, I'm not going to give you that information. I can't, even though I'm intimidated as hell, because I recognize that you could make me lose my job. Same thing, you know, can happen in different areas like that. You know, and then the assault of men was a big, you know, he was constantly fighting that pressure. So,
Professor, do we have laws that protect us with that?
yes, absolutely. Confidentiality laws, absolutely, we do. Yes. Caitlin,
Yeah, actually, I think about this a lot, but I worry about getting a job with, let's say, like an agency, and they might not seem to care. And
oh yeah, no.
I talked to the social worker about it, and she said that she had to find the right place to be.
Yes, absolutely.
And I've even worked for places who I know that it was just this. And I feel like that has to do a lot with like medical. I want to help people, but I'm just afraid of what I'm going to get into.
And you absolutely will run into that. Case in point might be the nursing home. I think, you know, I think a lot of you read the social worker at the nursing home, and it was like, you read, they don't understand what I do. They're trying to give, you know, would you clean these bedpans out? No, that's not my job. You know, it's trying to demean, and so that does happen. And sometimes I felt a little bit of that when I was doing some medical social work. I was very fortunate, though, to be part-time. And my supervisor actually came to me one time and said, why is it, she said, I get glowing reports from you. And some of my other social workers, you know, the nurses say they're not cooperating with me. And it's like, well, one of the things is I can stand on my head for 6 hours. But I don't have to come back tomorrow, you know? And so, like in medical social work, I don't think, well, actually, I know I didn't want to put up with the politics of Ben Taub, but I felt like the part-time work I was doing there was doing good for the patients. Yes, I had to compromise some of what I felt, but it was like, okay, this is going to be a give and take between me and this nurse, and I'm going to do, but also I'm going to be calling in favors from the nurse, you know, so I had to do my politicking, but I didn't have to do it every single day because I could go, I don't have to put up with this crap for another week because I'm not scheduled, you know, till next Saturday to work. So yes, you have to find the right place, but that also is the benefit of the versatility of social work. It's like you interview with an agency and see if it's a right fit for you, and that I think that's really, really important. So
Well, thank you.
yeah, so I guess the answer is yeah, you might run into it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Very good. Gaspar saying he loved the call about the 603, the involuntary placement. Yeah, the thing, the 603 was the involuntary placement, and that really actually resonated with me because I did that on several occasions with, but when I was at Ben Taub. I never rode in the ambulance to the hospital though. I will tell you I didn't do that because one of the things that I didn't do is I didn't develop a real strong bond with the clients because I was in the emergency room, and so they would come into the emergency room. But it really, that was one of those, the 603 was one of those stories where you go, wow, the social worker had to know a lot. And in her situation, she fortunately called on one of her colleagues to help her figure out how to get this person in involuntarily into a hospital. But she also developed a relationship. So thank you, Gaspar.
Yeah, I also wanted to add something really quick. I wanted to say that my favorite speaker was Evelyn because she was really open about giving us all the resources available, not only being as being a social worker, but also giving those resources to people that need it the most. So I mean, you have no idea you have those resources until you actually get to see all these organizations and stuff. And I thought that was really helpful and nice of her to share. And I wanted to thank you because you invited her. If you wouldn't invite her, then we wouldn't know. So
yeah.
I thought that was really helpful.
So next semester, if I do teach this course and I have to do it with some of this Zoom stuff, I've decided what I'm going to do is I'll call somebody like Evelyn up and say, hey, can you join me in a Zoom call so that you can hear their stories that way? Because just, you know,
cool.
Having the timing enough, hearing those in-story, the stories in person makes a difference because I know Evelyn with Josephine for sure, and you probably heard it in Dr. K and Dr. Liel. It's like what we do in social work is really who we are. It's about our life. It's a vocation maybe. Then those are spiritual terms, but a lot of people, you will hear that. It's like I was meant to do this. And I'm hoping, I think the readings, you can see that too, that there's a passion for that. But that's what I hoped out of this course, that you felt a little bit of that. Not just those of you who are majoring in social work, but some of you who are not majoring in social work and now are going, I might consider it. So anyway.
Yeah, I would say it was really impacted to read the 603 call because, I mean, it gives you kind of like an idea of, I mean, being a social worker can be life and death situation also, you know. You could be saving lives as well. And I don't know if any of you actually read the 603 call, but it was pretty interesting because she had to like know how to handle the situation in order to help the person not to commit suicide. And I thought that was really, really interesting.
Thank you. Cool. So next week, thank you. This was, I appreciated just kind of reviewing the semester with you all. Next week, I have 2 topics. Actually, I have 3 topics. The first topic is I want to do a little bit of a deeper discussion about social work values and how this semester you've seen how social workers apply those values. And I want to have some discussion about that. I'll hopefully frame my questions such that it will garner some conversations similar to what we had today. Then I also want to kind of reiterate the generalist perspective and see if we can talk about that in lay people's terms. And then I will do a review for the test, the final test, which is May the 4th. Wait, May 4th, is that right? Or May 6th? Yep, May 4th. Okay, so that's what you can expect for next week. I've really enjoyed this group, and I appreciate you all really logging on, and I know this is a different way of learning about social work, but this for me has been comforting to see your all's faces and hear your all voices. So thank you, and we have one more class, then we have a test. So I guess the reality is next week is the last time we'll see each other on screen together. So who wants to bring cookies? Okay, Kim's gonna bring cookies. Anyone want to bring punch and we'll have a little party? We could do that, or we could do happy hour. Everybody have a glass of wine, and I'm okay with that if y'all want to do that.
I think at this point we deserve a happy hour, right?
You're absolutely right. We do. Okay, so welcome to do that. I'm cool with that, and if you want me to stop recording at any moment, I can do that, or we'll just keep our wine glasses or scotch glasses down. I'm a scotch drinker, just so you know. We can do that. So I mean, we can, and I can splice the video as you see fit, and we can, you know, the review for the test, I could start recording there, or however you want to do this. It'll be cool. Thank you all.
Professor, I had one last question.
Yes.
It's sort of off topic, sort of not, but I just want to know from your professional stance, because, you know, we're always reading about all the good social workers, all the good things that they're doing, the hard work that they're doing. But the other day I read an article about like a major issue in CPS and child trafficking. And I was wondering if you know anything of what the NASW is doing to try and fix that issue, or what kind of regulation are they putting in new regulations for CPS social workers or anything like that?
Cool question.
Are you saying there is an issue within CPS, and CPS being the avenue for sex trafficking, or?
No, more, well, I read one article about an ex-CPS social worker who was actually caught for child trafficking, but then also I read about like just the children under CPS care who, yeah.
Okay, and the issue with NASW having any kind of impact on that is the majority of people who work for CPS are not social workers. So the bigger problem is CPS is a state organization. And so the issue becomes if there is abuse going on by a person providing social services, and it could be a social worker, but it is not necessarily a social worker. The state, because of their regulations, it's very difficult to get rid of a state employee. So I guess I would say the one area where NASW might make an impact is doing advocacy for making sure that individuals who are caught doing anything like that get the maximum penalty by law. And I guess I don't know that I've seen any specific legislation, but in our field, and that is in education, one of the things that both social workers and educators have really focused on is crossing the boundaries when a teacher has a relationship with a kid, a sexual relationship with a kid. We have really set the boundaries there and said, no, you will be prosecuted to every extent of the law, and it will not be pushed under the rug. So
Okay, thank you. It's nice to have learned that information.
okay, and I'm just recently on the whole area of sex trafficking. Senator Larry Taylor's wife that's kind of one of her passions, and so I've recently connected with her on training my staff in how to identify some of that. So I wasn't sure that was your question, but definitely the CPS system is broken in so many different states, and the foster care system, it works for many, but there are also problems with that too. So thank you. And you can email me offline if you want more specific information. I'm happy to provide that for you. So let's see. Floor says she has the margaritas. Jennifer says I have beer. Okay, Jarvey is with Floor on the margaritas. And turn my camera on. LOL. Okay, I heard happy hour. Okay. Who wants empanadas? That's Gaspar wants to know. I'll share my enchiladas with you. I love making my. Okay, yeah, please do. I love empanadas. Cool. All right, folks. I'm gonna go eat actually because I smell food. I smell food, so I'm gonna go eat.
I have a question real quick.
Or Gaspar.
Where do we get this recording?
Okay. If you go on drpeterw.com, it is a word sheet that says, here are the recordings. Yeah, and I splice it here, not tell people I'm a Scotch drinker, right? No, I won't. It's also on Blackboard. If you'll go and it says, find Zoom recordings here. You can find it either in Blackboard or on drpeterw.com.
All right, thank you.
And I can send it to you if you can't find it. And I've been updating them like the day or two afterwards. So I'm updating that same Word document that says click here. And I'm doing a hyperlink. But you'll actually, so what you'll do is you'll end up going to my YouTube channel and you should subscribe to it. And that way maybe eventually I'll be able to call it, YouTube / Dr. Peter W or something like that. So I'm trying to, I just did that for this class, by the way, that I haven't put videos up there before. So.
Well, I'll be your first comment.
We're the game changers.
Yeah, absolutely. You are game changers. Thank you. And so
I have a question.
I expect a lot out of this group. I'm gonna remember this cohort and I'm gonna remember your names. So, and I'm hoping that I will be references for many of you to go on to get your MSW. But if you stick just with the BSW, that's cool too. It's been a fun semester, but it's also been a draining semester, a stressful semester, and I know that. I feel that from you all, but I really have enjoyed Monday afternoons coming online with you and just chatting. The lectures, I'll figure that out as we go along. But this is a pretty cool format, so. I do hope to see you. I'll have to figure out something next semester if y'all go actually get back to class, find a time when a lot of you are taking the same courses and just pop in on your class sometime. Because the groups that do Introduction to Social Work, there's a whole chunk of y'all that become a cohort. So This won't be the last time I'll see you. But do remember, like right now, I know that's James, that's Andrew, that's Anna, that's Joe, that's Kim, that's Jude, that's Jennifer, and that's Caitlin, because your names are there. So when I see you next semester, I will not remember your name. You can call me professor and I'll call you student. Does that sound good? Hi, student. Do not be insulted. And when you go, oh, come on, I was your favorite student. Well, I still don't remember your name. I do know that person over on the left is named Support, but I called her Hey Jude instead. So, but I'll see you, and I won't remember your name. Sorry, Judy. Been very cool. I appreciate y'all. If y'all need anything, please reach out.
Sir, I just had one quick question about my paper.
Yes, go ahead, Dan. James, yes.
Okay, there's a part in my paper where you said you weren't for sure where I got this one citation at, but it was my third one. So what can I do more to let you know that was it? Because if you remember, it's about the prep.
Yeah. So James, why don't you email me those questions, or why don't I'll get offline with you because it's going to be very specific. I'll go back and I'll get your paper and I'll see if I can help direct you on how to cite that. That'll probably be easier to do that.
Okay.
Okay, cool. And anyone else? One final comment. I'm going to assume if you don't upload hours for volunteering, that you didn't get enough hours to make a difference, so you're going to write 3 essays. And knowing also that somebody recently said I couldn't upload them, but you emailed them to me. I remember getting them. I don't know that I responded to you, but I will assume that if I don't have the hours, either email to me, but please try to do them through Blackboard, that you're going to write 3 essays. But again, that's not due until next Monday. Next Monday. Yeah, a week from today. The hours are due, and you're at least 3 essays, 2 essays, 1 essay, or no essays because you did 28 or whatever hours. So that's where we are. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Next Monday for our last class.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye. Thank you.
Take
Have
care.
a great day, guys.
All right.
You too.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.